We're talking Pittsburgh Steelers on the Our Football Network, Our Football YouTube channel. When we talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers, we bring in Alex Kozora from SteelersDepot.com. Alex, thanks for doing this.
Hey, Greg, appreciate you having me on.
Well, it's nice to talk to one of our insiders where there's relevant football games going on this season. I've just been on we've had probably about a 20% rate with that in mind, but I'm happy to have, I think our back-to-back though will be you, and then Tony Lombardi will be my next guest when we talk about the Baltimore Ravens and the Russell Street Report. So we're going to get both sides of the story here this week. I'm excited about that. Of course, big game coming up, game number 2 of the season between the Steelers and the Ravens. And if you've been following another network, another channel, of course, that I just started along with 2 of the best handicappers in the industry called ProLine TV. One of the things we talked about on that show about a month ago, when the last time these 2 teams played, was that I was all in. All of my chips were in on the Steelers because the dog in the series has dominated this series for so long. The dog has now, they are on a 8-1 straight up 9-0 ATS run, including the outright upset win once again by the dog a month ago in Pittsburgh. So do you kind of get that feel yourself, Alex? Again, I know, whether or not you're whether or not you're somebody who pays attention to the line or not, do you kind of get that feel every time these 2 teams play that that's the case? That why is it always that the team that's not supposed to win wins?
Well, I haven't checked the numbers. I obviously believe you on them, but it's interesting. Pittsburgh, I assume, has been the dog in almost all those games because they've won 8 of the last 9. And so while this has been football's still best rivalry, not quite what it once was in the heyday of Ray Lewis and Ed Reed versus Hines Ward, etc., but still one of the best today. It's been dominated by Pittsburgh. They've been close games. They've always gone down to the wire, but Pittsburgh has won 8 of the last 9 against Baltimore. So that's kind of where I think about where this series is at. But obviously Pittsburgh is in for that underdog stat will be tested because Pittsburgh, it will be in for a handful come Saturday on a short week. While both teams are on a short week, Pittsburgh coming off that Eagles game, injuries they're dealing with, the road team, a lot of adversity to overcome.
Yeah, we're going to dive into all of it. And just looking through here, there was one time the Steelers were the favorite. So you're right about that. And that was the 2022 game. And that one, let's see, that one was the game where they were upset as just a 1.5 point favorite at home. And they were playing 2 of the last 5 games in 2022 together. I must note this though, because this is important. I forgot to note this, and I should have noted this, but I take out what happened last year at the end of the season that doesn't count because we all know what was going on there. Sure. Baltimore wasn't playing any of their players. Pittsburgh needed to win. And so that wasn't like 2 teams going up against each other. So yeah, that's important to note. Okay. So now let's talk about the game, because as you said, there were some key injuries in this game too, especially with Pittsburgh's, maybe their most important player on offense and their most important player on defense, both dealing with injuries. George Pickens has missed a couple of games. There's still word that he may or may not play this week. And TJ Watt, of course, had the injury just a few days ago. And Steeler fans are definitely worried about whether or not he's going to play this week. So what is the latest?
Yeah, right now things are still up in the air as of Tuesday afternoon. I just got word, some clips going around. George Pickens not officially back at practice, it doesn't seem, but he's working on the side and was going through some ladder drills. And so that's the first that I'm aware of actual participation in even some small degree. And that's a first optimistic sign we've gotten about him hopefully coming back. I've still felt pessimistic about his return. Hamstring injuries are tricky. They linger. Obviously, Pittsburgh needs him for the playoffs now that they've officially clinched a playoff spot. And just this condensed schedule, playing 3 games in 11 days, does not mesh well with hamstring injuries. So I'm still a little pessimistic, but we'll keep the door open. Watt, I think, will play. Mike Tomlin said Monday he was optimistic he'll play. It's a low ankle sprain, not a high ankle sprain. Given all this game means, given the Pittsburgh is 1 in 10 without TJ Watt is on the field, I think Watt's going to be out there come Saturday.
Okay. So the Steelers beat the Browns without Pickens, struggle more without him, and that was predictable against a better team. So let's just say he doesn't play. How do you think the Steelers can overcome him in a matchup this big, and again, against another really good team?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, even though the Ravens secondary may not have the great numbers, there's a lot of talent there. I think they're a group better than what some of the numbers would indicate, with Marlon Humphrey, especially as their top cornerback. It's got to be scheme, Greg, and we didn't see enough of that against the Eagles. I think Arthur Smith has to have a real A+ game plan. He had like a D- game plan against Philadelphia, because you can't just trust of, okay, Van Jefferson, go win your route against Marlon
Ugh,
Humphrey. It's just not going to happen. So you got to
no.
have really good, pick routes and rub routes, and be able to layer your concepts and really give Russell Wilson some more manageable situations than just trusting his guy to make a play. George Pickens, you can go trust that guy to make a play. The talent's off the charts. Not going to happen with the other guys. Of course, the run game must be more successful. They got to be in rhythm. They got to be better on first down to stay on schedule, open up play action, open up the boot game, things that did not exist against Philadelphia, clearly. So it does start with the run game, but schematically, Smith has to be on top of things.
And what's going on with Mike Williams? He has the big touchdown catch, so pretty much as soon as he gets there, but things have kind of been a little bit quiet. Is he playing enough? Is he still catching up to the playbook? Is he still banged up from the injury? Of course, I'm a Jet fan. I know I dealt with it all season. So what's going on with Mike Williams right now?
Yeah, I just think it's one of those things where he's not the Mike Williams of old. He's not the Chargers great, in the middle of his prime, type of player. And in an Arthur Smith offense, when Pickens was healthy, if you're not George Pickens, you're not going to get consistent volume in terms of targets. It's really going to be a popcorn thing where maybe it's your day, maybe it's Calvin Austin's day, and Austin has stepped up and produced. I will say, I think you look at the last 2 games without George Pickens, especially this Eagles game, Williams is only playing at 11 personnel in the passing situations. He's not playing in the run heavy sets at 12 personnel, 13 personnel, where other receivers get involved. Ben Skoranek, Van Jefferson, Scotty Miller. And so there's just a natural reduction of volume there when you're only playing in those passing moments. But yeah, it's just one of those things where, you kind of wonder a little bit about the lack of usage. I think there were some opportunities to get him the football. He is that vertical contest guy that you would think would assume George Pickens' role. But I do think before Pickens' injury, or yeah, even before the injury, when teams were playing some more too high looks, that's taking away the vertical deep ball. It's keeping things underneath, and so not really allowing Williams to win how he succeeds. And then, yeah, I would just say last week, they only ran 41 total plays against the Eagles, and so the volume opportunity is really not there. And they're just kind of really narrowing the menu of snaps for Williams out there playing in really just those 3 wide receiver sets.
Who else, speaking of injuries, besides the big two, will the Steelers be potentially without? How's the injury report looking in totality?
Not great. 2 weeks ago, they were spotless, but the NFL humbles you pretty quickly, and they got a couple of them to deal with right now. A big one that was not talked about enough for that Eagles game was strong safety Deshaun Elliott, their best tackler, a great box safety. He's been a fantastic compliment to Minkah Fitzpatrick. He missed with a hamstring injury. I don't know his status. Tomlin Monday said he'll have a chance to play, but that's all we've learned from that. The first report will drop here in an hour or so. So hopefully get some sort of feeling on him. But if he can't play, that's a big loss trying to tackle Derrick Henry and manage that, still top tier Ravens run game. Defensive lineman Larry Ogunjobi missed with a groin injury. Doesn't sound great for him to play this upcoming week, but we'll have to wait and see. And then in-game injuries besides Watt against Philadelphia, Justin Fields with an abdomen injury. We'll have to check on him. Pittsburgh will like to use him in some specialty type of moments, and starting cornerback Dante Jackson's battled a back injury. He did not finish out Sunday's game, and so I don't know his status for this upcoming Saturday. If he can't play, then James Pierre will likely get the start.
Yeah, if you're new to Ourlads, you can see this is the latest depth chart, and Ourlads puts banged up players basically in red. We'd have to slip on down here to the reserves. So tell me about, since we're talking about injured players, the players that are currently on injured reserve for the Steelers, are they going to get anybody back that is key to their season?
I don't think so at this point. There's an off chance that Fautanu, the first-round rookie, could come back and have his window at least open to return to practice. I assume the same maybe could happen for Roman Wilson, whose rookie year has basically been an entire wash and marred by multiple injuries. Maybe a CJ Henderson, he has a neck injury. I don't know his status, but nobody I would expect to really return, not for the regular season, and doubtful for the postseason as well.
Okay. Now, let's talk a little bit more about the game on Sunday. So, Steelers fans, how did they react? Because again, I'm not a fan. I don't follow the team. I don't know how much they like or criticize Najee Harris at all. Every player is different. How did the fans react to that key turnover?
Yeah, it was not well. Obviously, you fumbled the football away, and it's such a turning point of this one. I mean, Harris has been lauded for great ball security, and it's actually kind of crazy. He technically doesn't get charged for the fumble. It went to Russell Wilson, one of those weird quirks because Harris never technically possessed the football, but obviously it's on Najee. So just unacceptable. Can't happen there. More frustration, less about the fumbles in general, but just about, some people don't like him because he's a bigger back, isn't as explosive, not generating the big plays in the run game. Some have questioned his vision. It's kind of hit and miss. It just kind of depends. If he has a great game, people love him. If he has a poor game, people want to run him out of town. So interesting to see what happens with Najee. He's a free agent after the season. I really think Pittsburgh should have picked up the 5th-year option on him in May. They declined it. Still unclear why they chose to do that. So we'll see about Najee's future in Pittsburgh. This may be his last season.
Yeah, the fans, I have heard that they kind of, and maybe it's also one of those things about the backup quarterback. Same thing, I guess, about the backup running back. They seem to like Jaylen Warren.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Warren, and to be fair, there's a lot of reasons to like Jaylen Warren. He's a proven player. He's a talented player. He's an all-heart kind of guy. He's a bowling ball with legs. His contact balance is off the charts. He is a more explosive runner than Najee Harris, no question about that. Really good in pass protection. One of the best, probably, pass pro backs in football. But I just think they complement each other well. I think they keep each other fresh. I think they have different skill sets and talents, and I like having both of those guys instead of choosing one of them. But yeah, there certainly is an affinity for Jaylen Warren in Pittsburgh.
How's the offensive line come around? Because it's apparently pretty well, considering right now most of the season they've been playing with 2 rookies.
Yeah, they're healthy, and knock on wood for that. I think maybe last time we spoke, they were dealing with all those injuries, all that turnover up front. Pittsburgh had like 6 different O-line combinations their first 7 weeks of the season, just constant shuffling and constant injuries. They finally just kind of got to be stable and have the same group of 5 coming out of the bye week, and that's really important for any O-line, but especially a young one like Pittsburgh, a second-year right tackle in Broderick Jones, a rookie center in Zach Frazier, a rookie right guard in Mason McCormick. I would say largely it's been average. There's been some hits, some misses. Broderick Jones has had a terrible start to the season, has been a bit better, but still far from great. Dan Moore Jr. has had a nice season. Overall, he should get paid handsomely as a top tackle free agent on the market come the offseason. Frazier's been impressive. Samalu's been fine. I think McCormick's been a little up and down, but I just think for a rookie from South Dakota State, a 4th-round pick, who never played right guard before he was left guard in college, to make that transition in Pat Meyer's system, the O-line coach, where it's kind of tough to make that transition in some of the things he teaches. I think McCormick's done a heck of a job with James Daniels with torn Achilles, a free agent to be. I would expect McCormick to return as Pittsburgh's starting right guard in 2025.
So you mentioned, Dan Moore, you don't expect Dan Moore to be back?
I don't. I'm not going to put a 0% chance on that. But when you draft, a first-round rookie in Fautanu and you have Jones there, and just given the price tag, it'll likely command to retain more. Kudos to him. Many people, myself included, thought eventually he would lose that left tackle job last year when they took Jones. This year when they took Fautanu, he's done well. He's improved as a hard worker. He has earned everything out there. He's been very durable, very consistent, and dependable from an availability standpoint. But I mean, some team's going to pay him a bunch of money to go play left tackle. I don't think that'll be Pittsburgh.
Okay. As far as the matchup with the Steelers, what is it specifically that works well for Pittsburgh when they have all their bullets in the chamber? Pickens, of course, included. What is it? Even in the game, of course, this year, there's still several new players, Russell Wilson and so forth. But what is it about the Steelers and how they have been able to, like you said, you could say it's the dog, but the fact is Pittsburgh has won a lot of these matchups lately. So why is that?
Yeah, I think it's their never say die attitude. I think that's required in these games like this that can be back and forth and often go down to the wire. Again, Pittsburgh has dominated from the win standpoint, the final result standpoint, but these games are always close, including the previous matchup in week 11, 18-16, comes down to the 2-point conversion. It's like the second time in the last maybe 3 or 4 years where the game's been decided by a 2-point conversion. Baltimore had one a couple years ago and they failed, and Pittsburgh won the game. I think they've had good answers for Lamar Jackson. The numbers would suggest Jackson has struggled against Pittsburgh more than any other team. I think on tape, Jackson has played a bit better. Sometimes his receivers haven't always been there for him, but I think Pittsburgh has a good game plan in terms of their rush lane integrity, in terms of rushing 5 and containing Lamar, not letting his legs take over. And I think Pittsburgh did a nice job against Derrick Henry too. And they're a ball hawking team. They're an attacking team. They take the ball away. And anytime you're playing a close game against a good opponent and you can steal a possession with a turnover, that can make all the difference. Think back to that Week 11 game, Pittsburgh, end of the first half. Ravens are running the tight end screen, like the most safe play you could call, and Pittsburgh forces a fumble. They get the ball. They kick a field goal before halftime. That was important in a 2-point victory. So Pittsburgh is plus 18 in turnover margin. They lead the NFL in takeaways, and those serve you well for close games.
Okay. As far as what the Steelers need, because it looks like, of course, Pickens will be back soon enough. And as you said, most of the players that are going to be important for this team down the stretch are going to be healthy. So what do you think the Steelers need to do as a team to, at some point, they may have to, of course, play the Bills or the Chiefs in the postseason. They're going to. They're going to have to get through one or both of those teams in order to get to the Super Bowl, if that's where, of course, they're going to end up to win a championship. How do you think they can do that with this team? Do they have enough this year to do that?
Yeah, I don't want to say they lack when everyone is healthy. Of course, Pickens is so valuable and he's proving his value. He's going to want a contract extension this summer, Greg, and he's going to point to these 2 games of like, this is why you pay me, because without me, or the whole complexion of the offense changes. Russell Wilson, just to really give him some credit, has elevated this offense, and that's why Mike Tomlin made the controversial decision to go to Russ and bench Justin Fields midway through to try to elevate this offense from scoring 17, 18 points per game and winning the low scoring slugfest to can we put up 30 against the Bengals game, a great example. The Bengals don't have a good defense, but can you outduel a really talented quarterback in Joe Burrow and win a shootout? And Pittsburgh showed that they're capable of doing that. So that is the one thing, being able to match points with points, because when you face Josh Allen, as good as Pittsburgh's defense is capable of playing, those teams are going to score some points. I would just say one stat that really strikes me, Greg, and Pittsburgh has not won a playoff game since 2016. They've lost their last 5 matchups. Over those 5 games, they've been outscored 66-0 in the first quarter. They've gotten off to horrific starts in their playoff games. And so just talking about any one particular game, Pittsburgh must get off the faster starts. Really has not been their MO this season. They've continued to struggle. But if you want to go in there and beat Josh Allen, you can't be down 14-0. And that's basically what happened last year. And so you got to get off to a faster start.
How do the fans, because it's got to be, I'm not going to say hard, that's for sure, but it's got to be interesting to have all of this winning going on during the Tomlin era. You can get spoiled, no question about that. Even though it's not like there's 3 or 4 Super Bowl trophies since Tomlin's been here. It's not the case. Mm-hmm. But that's probably the reason why you get criticism, because you kind of, at some point, we got to do more than just, be a 500 or better team every season. So this particular year, how are the fans taking to this team? Do they seem to be a little bit more excited, a little bit more hopeful, or, well, because like you said, after the way that they've looked in the playoffs lately, this is nice, but let's just wait until we get to the playoffs.
It's a bit of both. There is more optimism because of what Wilson has brought. And for an offense that's finally, I don't know where they rank post week 15. They probably dropped a couple slots, but they were the top 10 scoring offense going into this Eagles game. And Pittsburgh has not been there since 2018, I think. And so there was optimism that, okay, we've solved our biggest problem of the defense is good. We have an elite kicker in Chris Boswell having a historically good season. Just needed the offense to pull its own weight, not be an anchor weighing this team down. And they've shown signs of that. And so that was producing optimism. But to your point, as great as Pittsburgh's season has been, how it surprised so many pundits, the main thing is the main thing. And the main thing is winning a playoff game and not being because none of this matters. They can even if they beat the Ravens and the Chiefs and the Bengals, if they get one and done in the postseason and wildcard weekend, and then it's the same old Steelers. It's the same old result. There has to be tangible progress. That's how Pittsburgh is measuring themselves. And that's not even just for the fan base. It's internal. It's for the front office. That's why they were aggressive in overhauling their quarterback situation, because they wanted to be more than just a wild card team that sneaks in and then gets bounced in the first round by one of the elites. And so that is still the judgment of success, not just the regular season. Pittsburgh is always competitive. They often make the playoffs, but actually advancing and winning a playoff game and feeling like a true contender.
And that's also why it's important to get that number 3 seed and get the home game early, because you're with the Chiefs out there and the Bills out there in the same conference and the Ravens. If you have to start out on the road in the playoffs, you really don't have a shot.
Yeah, it becomes much tougher, and certainly some of those losses have come on the road in Buffalo last year in that crazy snowstorm that got delayed and rescheduled, and what a mess that was. In Kansas City a couple of years ago against Mahomes, you don't want to play, even though the Chiefs aren't the Chiefs of old currently. I don't want to play the Chiefs in area.
No.
Just no thank you on that. So yeah, that's why this game means so much. If Pittsburgh wins this game, they clinch the division. They'll probably have the 3 seed. If not, division is wide open. So this game obviously means everything.
Okay, before I let you go, how is the because you've already talked about 2 of the rookies on the offensive line. How has the overall draft class looked outside of those 2? Because there are a few other rookies that have also been, they've been what is proper word, I guess, contributing. We talked when the draft came out. What a big fan I am of Peyton Wilson. And BD Bishop's been playing a lot. So it seems to have been a really good draft class.
Yeah, there's been really promising returns. We talked about Frazier, McCormick. Those guys have done a good job. They'll be starters next season. Obviously, Fautanu, the injury, he played in 1 game in week 2. It's impossible to make evaluations from it, and he got hurt this summer too. So there really just is not much to know about him. Same with Roman Wilson. He turned an ankle in July. He missed all the summer. He came back, played in 1 game, 5 snaps, no catches. Popped up with a hamstring injury a couple weeks later. This season's been a wash for him. But Peyton Wilson's been impressive. Nickel linebacker, his run and chase is really impressive. That Ravens game, he had to play the Ravens game, that great interception on that wheel route to Justice Hill. I don't know how he caught that football, but he did. Has to work on run defense and playing in a phone booth, but the talent is certainly there. Bishop's been a plucky nickel corner, had that big game against the Jets, picked off Aaron Rodgers twice. There's been some issues in coverage, some communication things, but he's a rookie and Pittsburgh's asked a lot out of him. They've reduced his role slightly once Cam Sutton has come back, and so they're taking a little less off of his plate. But I think Bishop's done a nice job overall.
And where do you think they're going to look at? I know it's early. We'll talk about this when the season's over. Hopefully we'll even talk again playoff time, but this is a better time than the playoffs to kind of get a little bit of a jump start on asking you, what do you think the Steelers would be looking at to improve their team this offseason?
Yeah, I would still say wide receiver high on their list. Pickens will be going into a contract year, and his extension will be the talk of the summer. It could happen, but even if it does, you got to get someone across from him. Look at the Eagles. Yeah, they're built through the run game and through the trenches, but they have 2 stud wide receivers they can lean on when they have to pass the football. Pittsburgh needs some sort of complement there. Cornerback, potentially. Dante Jackson's a free agent. If he goes, there'll be a big hole there to replace him opposite Joey Porter Jr. Quarterback is obviously the big thing. What happens with Russell Wilson, Justin Fields? I would guess and start to expect Wilson will return. We'll let the season play out and kind of see things from there. What will Wilson's market value be? I'm really curious to see how the NFL and how Pittsburgh values him, but I don't think Wilson wants to go play for a third team in 3 years and move around. And he loves Mike Tomlin, loves the city. Why go? The grass is not going to be greener on the other side.
No.
So I think he is going to return. One sneaky need is defensive line. Cam Hayward's been amazing this season, but he is 35. And opposite him, Larry Ogunjobi, he may not be back in 2025. There really is no starter and waiting behind him. So you may want to find a defensive end to beef up the trenches.
Okay. And also, I have to ask you about, because I'm going to be putting links in the description, just one more thing. So check out all of the content links that you can find for Alex and covering the Steelers. And obviously it's early in the week, so he's going to have a lot more to update you later in the week. So look out for that. But I think, before I let you go, Alex, I think that this is a really interesting draft class for quarterbacks, because I don't think any of them deserve to be drafted in the first round. They're going to be drafted in the first round. Sanders is probably going to be the one drafted in the top 10, even though he doesn't deserve to be drafted anywhere near the top 10. But I guess the point is that there are going to be some quarterbacks that are going to be available late in the first round, second round. So is it possible that the Pittsburgh Steelers' first pick could actually be a quarterback?
I don't want to rule anything out here in mid-December, but I'd be very, very shocked if that's the route that Pittsburgh took, given that their contention status. They want to win now. They have an aging defense. They have maybe something at quarterback finally with Russell Wilson, assuming they can re-sign him. I just don't see that being in the cards. I think they want to add to some other pieces around. I don't think they're going to take the Packers route of go draft Jordan Love and wait for him in 4 years.
Yeah, maybe the thing to do, and I don't know exactly, because right now the latest with our scouting reports is that Dylan, like a quarterback like Dylan Gabriel, even is supposed to be like third, fourth, fifth rounder guy. But I could see a guy like that being the perfect type of quarterback that a team can take because of all of his experience. So we just saw with Brock Purdy and Bo Nix. I mean, if you've got experience in college football, you may not have all the other intangibles that these scouts are looking for. But, experience, man, nowadays, that just trumps everything. And getting a guy like that could even be something that a program like the Steelers can do.
I would just say one thing. I don't think quarterback will be in the cards for Pittsburgh. I do think the quarterback, maybe the lack of talent, and certainly not the class that they had last year, is going to impact Pittsburgh from the market value of, okay, those veteran free agent quarterbacks become a lot more valuable because, hey, we end up able to go draft a quarterback in the first round, like the sixth that got drafted in 2024. And so does Russell Wilson's price tag go up? And certainly does Justin Fields have more of a market, or more teams more interested in him based on his performance this year? And again, what free agent quarterbacks will be out there? Sam Darnold, does he get away from Minnesota? Maybe not. If not, it's Wilson, it's Fields. There really isn't much else out there, and so I think it's going to drive up the price tag on those guys.
And by the way, if Darnold does sign in Minnesota, well, Minnesota then you would think would be awfully tempting to go ahead and trade JJ McCarthy.
Yeah, that's true too. But with his rookie season a wash, I mean, it's just some projection there. But yeah, I think Fields will have interest. I think he'll have a chance to start somewhere and get paid certainly more than he's being paid right now.
You would think so. Yeah, there's not enough quarterbacks, good starting quarterbacks in the NFL. All right, Alex, I really appreciate it. Again, I look forward to the opportunity to talk to you around playoff time. I know you're going to be really busy, but we'll do our best to get you on. And if we can, then that'd be great. Best of luck the rest of the season until we talk to you. And again, thanks for doing this.
Yeah, thank you, Greg. Take care.